So a warm welcome to our new normal video series. Today we're focusing on employee well-being with a deep dive on mental health. And I'm sure you will all agree this is one of the most important areas we should be focusing on right now. As previously discussed, the pace of change within the businesses across retail, food, beverage and leisure sectors is huge and at unprecedented levels. This change is pivotal to supporting businesses to thrive and survive. This is putting a great strain on your most valued assets, your employees. This strain can't really be underestimated. Colleagues are being asked to change and adapt to challenges, both in terms of supporting the business, but also their families and friends. This crisis really is challenging and creating so many different dynamics for employees. It's imperative that the support and well-being guidance they are offered moves at pace too. In this session, we're going to explore how you can support your colleagues through the myriad of opportunities and challenges presented by this new normal. And I'm delighted today to welcome Lorna Feeney to discuss ideas and techniques that can be used to support your colleagues through these unprecedented, challenging times. Lorna is the head of mental health risk at Marsh and brings a wealth of expertise to this series. This video is produced the day before the second lockdown commences. The lockdown will place an even greater burden on colleagues, so it's more relevant than ever for us to concentrate on supporting colleagues and our friends. So Lorna, we know the UK retail sector is heading for a mental health crisis, we expect. Shop workers are increasingly worried over contracting COVID, the looming threat of potential redundancies, the wearing of mandatory face masks, and probably the increased likelihood of being subject to violence and abusive attack. These factors really can cause huge amounts of strain, stress and anxiety, and it could also lead to depression. So what are your top tips for employers who are looking to support their employees' well-being?
Yes, thanks very much, David, for welcoming me on. We are living in a very uncertain time, and retail are frontline staff, aren't they, at the moment, and it's really taking a toll on them. One of the most important things I would say is to talk to them, check in on them, not check up on them. I know it may seem obvious, but remaining constantly engaged with your employees is a key way to ensuring that their mental health is in check. Having catch-up sessions with both teams and individuals can give you an idea of how they feel about the work environment and the work itself. While this can be difficult for some of your employers who are working from home, it is important to make an effort to show that you care too. We still have that duty of care. While newer employees may be less willing to open up, make sure you're in regular contact, and that will be able for them to speak more freely if they are having many issues. It's important to strike a balance in order to not seem overbearing. So again, the check-in, check-up is too much, which can increase stress. You can also encourage employees to share their feelings in anonymous ways and discuss any issues raised in team meetings, and try to put people at ease where you can possible. Everyone has mental health, and there's no health without mental health. There's no mental health. With no health, there's no mental health or physical health. So whatever our circumstances are, this outbreak is going to have an impact on how we think, feel, how we are in the world, and where we are and where we live. So good work is great for our mental health. And it's important that we preserve the opportunity to enjoy the benefits of work wherever we can. Some people are at a greater risk of poor mental health, unfortunately, and we need to consider how it affects staff as well, and other challenges as well from people with Asian or Italian backgrounds may be facing discrimination behaviours and adjust accordingly. So we need to try to act in ways to protect the physical and mental health of staff, and starting with those who are at greatest need, really. So by doing that, by able to talk to them, send out surveys. And remember that vulnerability has many faces. So there's lots of talk of physical vulnerabilities in relation to the coronavirus, but senior managers will feel vulnerable too in demonstrating leadership in unusual circumstances. So helping each other and stay composed by encouraging and reminding how good the job they're doing does go a long way. The appreciation, we really forget about just the small little things by saying thank you and reminding them, especially in the circumstances we really need to hear that. This can be particularly difficult for people with pre-existing or past mental health problems too. So staying at home may be bringing back memories of bad times over people who've experienced depression or trauma. So know your people, do a little extra for those who are more vulnerable, and if you notice changes in their behaviour. These circumstances might lead to disclose mental health problems they've previously not discussed at work. So treat new disclosures with respect, compassion, and make adjustments. Another top tip would be to promote access to support. Again, make sure it's clear. We have to find different ways of being able to promote the support that you may have. You may have an employee assisted program, or you may be affiliated to a charity, but find out whether there's any specific resources relating to the outbreak as well. Make sure people know who they can go to, who they can talk to internally. If you have mental health champions, allies, or mental health first aiders, make sure that they have the latest information, and that if you change working practices, that this network of mental health support carries on if possible. Use of technology as well. Offer advice for those used to not working remotely, and provide equipment for staff to keep in touch with each other too. Encourage people to maintain informal conversations too if they're working virtually. So there's quite a lot of top tips there, but it's, just to start off. But another real big top tip as well is, if we can, encourage personal planning and self-care. Again, it's all down to the communication, and where we've been talking to people before in the past, we really need to really continue that and make sure that people are, talk to them about their plans. If a line manager can talk, how they will be dealing with if they do transmit coronavirus, what is the self-isolating, who will be looking after them, so we can just keep in contact with them as much as we can. And coming into work where necessarily an essential worker during the pandemic, and thank you very much for everybody who is doing that. It'll feel unusual and may add to anxiety. So again, what we need to do is how we can talk to them, how they're travelling to the workplace, how that we can help them in any way so they don't feel as if they're on their own. Also maintain, the hygiene measures advised by authorities: hand washing, catching sneezes, wearing masks if you want to. The virus is definitely going to be a hot topic of conversation at work. We can't get away from it. If we can, as employers, try and minimise the gossip, and what we can do is we can put facts about. So again, signpost to the NHS guidance or the government websites to really try and help stop this for people who suffer with anxiety. So yes,
there's loads there, and that's really, really insightful. So a great start to the discussion. And I guess I think we've all got a personal responsibility, as you've said, to show and support colleagues through these times. And I guess it's that personal touch that really does make that difference. But recognizing what you said earlier, now there's a fine balance between being showing and being caring, and also being too intrusive. So I guess we've got to be conscious of that as well. But just perhaps delving into one of the topics in a bit more detail, what would you say you've seen some of the most successful businesses regarding sort of mental health and well-being? Are there any kind of particular solutions or initiatives that you've seen that you think stand out or work really well?
Well, I think with the mental health and the well-being, I think lots of different companies and businesses are all at different stages, and there's a lot of businesses out there doing a lot of good work. But for me, again, the communication is key, being able to get it out there. So we have seen an increase, unfortunately, since the pandemic in mental health illness. It's gone up by 37%. It was 25% of your workforce will suffer with a mental health illness within 12 months before the pandemic. That has increased by an extra 37%. So you're now looking at 62% of your workforce potentially is suffering with a mental health illness, and which has been diagnosed. So the figures what have been reported. And okay, some of this can be to do with environmental factors such as the pandemic, but people have not experienced mental health illness before, such as anxiety leading to depression. So businesses are really looking into actually what else can we do to support our employees. Now, there's lots of different things out there, but for quick fixes, at the moment, they're investing in doing online, so a quick 30-minute online module which people can look into. So the most important thing for me is how business can help educate employees around mental health. There's a difference between mental health and mental ill health, and actually what people were doing to I suppose alleviate stress, what used to work for them before, such as if they've had a bad day in the office or a bad day in the shop or the work, they might go for a run. They're coming back from that run and realising actually that impact isn't as it was before the pandemic. It's really important that they still maintain doing these things which help them, but also look into other things that they can do to help. So such as minimise watching the news if this is adding to their stress levels. So there are some courses out there, and I have put together 4 modules, one on which is 30 minutes, which can be as a webinar, which is on self-care and mental health. There's one on depression and anxiety, and there's one on about mindfulness as well. And these can be recorded and I can send them out. But there's lots of great apps out there as well, which people can use. And there's so much stuff out there. But for me, I'm finding that more businesses are wanting to look into how they can help their employees, and having a strategy in place around mental health and well-being is a great start. And that includes training line managers, because they need the extra assistance to be able to help and spot the signs of people who may be starting to suffer with a mental health illness, and also what the clear plan is, how they can signpost them effectively to get the right help. To be able to encourage conversations as well around mental health as well. How do we start that? What can we talk about? What we can't talk about? Develop mental health awareness again amongst employees. And these all form part of the 6 core standards, which is actually a report, Thriving at Work report, which Lord Stevenson and Paul Farmer, the CEO of Mind, who wrote this together. And the HSE are really pushing for businesses to implement these 6 core standards into their business. And it covers off a multitude of different things around mental health. But again, we do have a duty of care, whether the employee is at work or not. We still have that there, the law still stands there. And under the Working Act 1974, it does say that employers should look after the well-being, the welfare of their employees. It doesn't state mental or physical. And again, the HSE are really looking into this now and moving this forward on the mental health side.
So yeah, I mean, this is just such a really key topic and a key area for us all to focus on. You know, and those statistics you mentioned, you know, 25% up to 60% of employees potentially suffering from a challenge. You know, that's quite frightening. So I just wondered, you know, and one of the things that we're picking up on is people struggling, colleagues struggling to adjust to the kind of the work-life balance. How do they get that right? Particularly those working from home, where it often feels that has the home now become the office? How, you know, what are the techniques we can support or use to support colleagues to try and break up that kind of that daily challenge?
Yeah, and it is a tough one, because again, we're in a place where none of us have been before, so we're all muddling through as best as we can and trying to offer support. I think the first thing is that leadership and managers should set the example. I really do. So they demonstrate how they find balance in life. When employees see their managers or leadership team logging on early or coming in early to whatever, on staying late, they'll feel obliged that they need to do the same. So managers and leadership really need to set an example, and so they can do that by reasonable hours, having interests out of the business, and demonstrating personal priorities that are different than work responsibilities. These are key ones. Promoting hobbies as well, you know, sharing, they're an important part of life, and support work-life balance. Whether that hobby is reading a book, bike riding, gardening, golfing, shopping, everyone has a different interest outside of their work responsibilities. But this is really important for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that hobbies help employees think about something other than their job. When employees are so engrossed in their job, they think of nothing else, and they can become jaded and resentful that their job has taken away any personal time they have. The kind of resentment can fester then over time and manifest into negativity as the employee approaches burnout. So the second reason is that hobbies can often help reduce stress and give pleasure to us. So hobbies should be a part of a balanced life and should be embraced and encouraged. So practical things that leadership can do as well, and managers can do to help employees is, talk to employees about the importance of taking the time off. I know it's been quite hard, and especially, we have definitely been encouraged at Marsh to take our holidays. Okay, we can't go anywhere at the moment, but having that time away and just having that family time, get the board games out, or go for walks, or do something different, creative, spend that time with family and friends. And, it's really, really important that we do have that time off. Encourage employees to plan their holidays. Again, a little bit difficult at the moment, but we can look further, something to look forward to the future. And also, again, examples managers and leadership should say that they've booked their holidays off and they're looking forward to. Again, it's encouraging. Talk about interests and encourage outside interests as well, so the hobbies there. And also, managers making it a bit more personal as well, sharing their interests and having outside interests and how they've helped manage work and family obligations as well is really, really helpful. So again, setting that example will really help people and encourage people, and you will have a happy workforce too.
Yeah, so yeah, it's clear that I think they're picking up on one of those threads that leading by example. It's key that I think we all kind of support and try and spot colleagues who are struggling and show that it's okay for us to change, get away from the desk and break up the day, and it's a key thing. You mentioned this at the beginning of the discussion. What are the telltale signs you think, the early precursors of someone who's starting to struggle? What are those signs that you would see?
Well, I mean, there's lots of, it's a change in the behaviour is key. As much as I like to promote positivity and have everybody have a positive mental attitude, it's not always the case. But the change in the person is definitely key on this. So again, it's about knowing your team, knowing your employees and how they work. So if we have somebody who is quite a negative mindset and we've known they've always been like that, then that's absolutely fine. However, if we notice that their attitude has become even more decreasingly negative, more talking more negatively than they have done before, and they might be a bit agitated, they might their appearance, might not look after their appearance. Working from home, there's different things you can do, which I think it's really important that for an employer, they should be putting different social events, and you can check to see if people are joining in, to see if they're on the Zoom calls, just seeing if we can do lots of different things. So so I think that's key really, into changing behaviour of the person is key to notice.
So I think communication really is hugely important and massive factor as in life. What do you think, Laura? What did you think are the best examples that you've seen employees communicating about health and well-being, and particularly the support policies and guidance they can provide to employees?
I think it's just been making sure that you continue consistently to just keep putting the same messages out there. And again, we need to have a look at different ways of being able to get the message across, whether it's email, whether it's notice boards, whether it's in newsletters. There are businesses now what they do. The apps. I know that Mercer have got an app now, which is really good because a lot of employees all have mobile phones, so download the apps and you can put everything on there, so you're able to get your message across that way. So technology is great. I mean, I don't know where we would have been if we didn't have technology, especially the type of work that we do. But again, lots of different ways to be able to get communication out there, and just make sure that you keep doing it in lots of different ways. So whether it's post, email, posters on the door, posters in the workplace, just make it sure it's consistent. Social media, because you will get to somebody differently. And even briefing all of your managers, your line managers, so they're saying the same things to people to be able to report back. So make sure that the messaging is consistent, and send it out in different ways, different communication ways.
I think we probably touched upon this earlier, but something that I've personally quite valued is engaging with employees and discussing kind of non-work related tasks. I think, as you said before, I think one of the big kind of hurdles to overcome in the environment today is just everyone seems to kind of work, and is trying to break that up. So any tips and tools, and how to support colleagues to facilitate those non-work related discussions?
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually, because I did have a client on, and we just really went through some different ideas what we can do. And again, it's really, trying to think outside the box, because we've not been challenged this way before. But it is really important that we do keep those personal relationships as well. I mean, I know myself, when I'm working in London, I only know I know my team, but I don't know anybody else. However, when I go into the kitchen, I often bump into you, David, don't I? And we can have a quick catch up, which I wouldn't necessarily go over to your desk. So actually, how can we do that virtually? We could put things in people's diaries called kitchen catch-ups, and just put a 10-minute in there, and an open place where everybody can just log in and just have a look and have a quick conversation. Because I think those kitchen catch-ups were really, really important for me, especially for being able to continue professional relationships and catch up. It really was a great place. But we could talk about personal things as well, as how did you get on at the gym? You were saying you was going there, or you fancy going out for drinks later on. Lots of different things. There's another thing which I thought was quite good, where on a lunchtime, again, a lot of people congregate in the staff room, don't they, to be able to have their lunch, but we can't do that if you're working from home. Well, how about we do cooking at lunchtime? So again, another virtual Zoom. My colleague did it not so long ago, showed us how to cook this great Thai curry, all in 30 minutes, while we all was on Zoom watching her cook for us, and we was all eating our lunch. And it was really great, because it was something completely different. I could all talk about and share recipes, and then next week we've got somebody else doing it, doing a Mexican bean feast, which is going to be really good. And it just gets really people involved. So it's making sure as well that people are having that breakaway as well, and doing something different outside at the lunchtime. So lots of different ideas. I think everybody has had enough of quizzes from the last lockdown. So when we do bingo or Cluedo or Monopoly or board games, I don't know. But there's quite a lot of things that we can do, but it's just having those ideas. And I have found that a lot of businesses now are putting stuff more online as well. So we've done the escape rooms, and I think we're actually going to do that for our Christmas gig this year. My boss has said he wants to pay for us all to do the escape room. So again, it's a virtual thing, which is great. It's a great idea. It's something different, and we're all together and we're all bonding. So looking forward to that. So yeah, anybody who has any ideas, I think it's best putting it out to the teams, asking what they want to see, what they want to do more of, how we can have social. But yes, while we can't go in the pub at the moment, we need to be doing something else, don't we?
We certainly do, and I think that was, I really like those ideas, breaking things up, and I think we'd all agree we've probably been over quizzed in the first lockdown. So I particularly like that idea with the cooking at lunchtime, because again, it just breaks things up and it's different.
Yeah.
So yeah, massive thank you, Lorna. I think that's been a really enlightening discussion, but also sobering. I think some of those statistics at the beginning of the chat, it really is something for us all to focus on. And I think we'd all agree it's now more important than ever that we support colleagues as the world really does continue to change around us. So we hope you found today's video provides you with ideas to support your colleagues through these really challenging times. And in the next videos, we'll explore how best to navigate through the challenges created by generational change in the insurance market. But in the meantime, please take care, stay safe, and communicate with your colleagues. Thank you. And thanks again, Lorna.
You're very welcome. Thank you.